Hello, my name is S. Robert Westman. I'm an aspiring writer, and I'm just recording a few stories and essays and just posting them on YouTube. Not really to like blow up or anything. I just want to share it with my friends and stuff. And if anyone else likes them, I don't mind. I kind of just want some feedback and stuff. This is just a short story I wrote. It's called "The Outcast Sorcerer," and this is the first chapter. And so I will start getting into it now. Deep in the dark, below the surface, beyond the soft, fertile soil and igneous rock, lay open caverns where mighty fortresses sprawled. These were not the brutalist architecture of dwarven efficiency forges that were lodged in the guts of mountains, nor were they the caverns carved out by such skilled craftsmen. There was no warming sun, no faint stars that trickled in from the darkness. There was only the soft, fragile, artificial light of bioluminescence of glowing fungi. One fortress, in the largest spire that tried scraping the ceiling like a bony finger, is where our story begins. Three conniving vultures stalked the staircase, bickering lightly with each other. Agatha grunted as she t- as she thought this entire idea was a waste. Carrying a vial of blood, she sloshed with a disgust expression. Do we really need this for it? We should do it for one of us. We are far superior than it. Dominica tutted at her blunt sister. She shrunk into her shoulders as Agatha mimicked a fake punch. She kept her mouth shut to make sure her sister wouldn't pummel her down the spiraling stairs. Faith cleared her throat as she glanced back at her two younger sisters. They froze in utter fear. Agatha may be physically overpowering, and the Dominica may rival their matron mother in magic, but Faith was the most feared. It was why she was named in such a way, as a crude joke towards surface civilizations who named their daughters such pure names, but Faith was anything but pure. Her twisted mind could think of the most tormented ways to torture the most stoic of souls. Even their matron mother gets occasionally impressed with the wicked ideas her eldest daughter concocted. Even the idea of her own, even this idea was of her own plotting. She gently rocked the baby within her arms. She was just playing, imitating a loving sister to keep the crying male to quit his whining. She loathed the sound of his whimpering, but it wasn't indiscriminate to just him. She hated most children, snivelling brats. Finally, they ascended towards the top of the tower, softly huffing from a long journey up. They wished for a quicker way up to this tower, but their matron mother was a melodramatic megalomaniac, a wretched woman who cared little for even her prized daughters. Even they were a means to an end to seize the power for the De Verden name. And yet each sister always fought for their mother's adoration, as pawns would vie for the king's attention and honor. The mother always smelled like fresh corpses and wriggling maggots, as if she always was strewn with foul. Mother Verdun twirled in her long overflowing dress. She looked so youthful, and yet she was nearly 500 years old, a point where very little of dark blood will ever reach. She even looked younger than Faith, which always confused her daughter with what dark magic she did to look so powerful in her old age. Faith handed her mother the small weeping child. His crimson eyes softened as it gazed upon his mother. The poor thing was innocent, too pure to realize the den of scorpions and arachnids it was brought into. He reached desperately at his mother, and yet she was repulsed at how this creature was trying to dare smear its grubby paws over her skin. If only the poor baby had been born somewhere else. Then he would have had a mother who'd cared. She placed this snivelling infant onto the cold and feeling stone. It was hardly a difference from her long, elegant fingers and hands that held him seconds before. Agatha moved swiftly, handing her mother the vial of blood that she was tasked to carry. Her previous statements of disapproving this ritual were now inert thoughts, and became even quieter. Their mother is known to read minds. Her mother snatched the vial and poured it into a small bowl containing ash. She mixed the two substances till they formed into a thick sludge. While her mother stirred, the mendicant began drawing symbols, some on the altar and other small symbols on the child's head. She let out a viper's hiss when the baby would squirm, and she would have to remake the symbol on him. Couldn't we have done it on a much older male? He would squirm and cry so much less. She raised her eyes when she finished, but finished her sentence, and noticed all the three women stared at her with daggers in their eyes. Faith was about to speak, but their shared mother raised her hand swiftly to silence her. This power we are allowing this male to receive is so we can control him, so that we can shape him into a weapon and break any desire for freedom within him. And I will only waste this on my son. No lesser born will have such dragon blood merge into their flesh. It would be a waste than it already is. But we need a weapon, and that is why your little maggot of a brother will be metamorphosized into an instrument of our will. With that declaration, the baby's future, she poured a sludge into the infant's mouth. Some of the symbols gave the child the power to consume this, others began the ritual. The child cried and screamed, but there was nothing that could save him. A flash of flickering blue filled the steeple's window, and in the darkness followed by utter silence. The dream was a soft and unfamiliar light, burned in the sky as his feet pressed against an unfamiliar surface. Soft, wet, and green. He knew this place well. He was been dreaming of this place since he was a boy, and yet he never knew of this place. There were never really any landmarks or people or any defining factors beside the warm sun and the soft grass. It was equivalent of a vivid memory, and he didn't live. But like all great dreams, there comes a time when it twists around into a nightmare. Rumbling like an earthquake in the sky echoed, and came along a figure that he associated with it. Looked like an old man, but he was always too far in the distance for the dreamer to get a better detailed image of him. He spoke, but he was always too far for the dreamer to hear, and there's something here. And then something new happened. A separate figure emerged from his side, staring hot to the eyes as she stood beside the older man. They now spoke in unison, but he only understood two words. Wake up. Brassen awoke in a cold sweat, lunging his body forward with a startled jump like a house cat. He patted his body as he made sure there was no marks or wounds on his body. You need to fix that. It was another dream. He stared into the deep darkness of the city below his tower, and he sighed. 46 years of living here, and the sight has gotten old before his first decade. He stretched slightly as he looked up into the giant spider statue that was anchored in the ceiling. He watched as the giant pearlescent eyes rolled and tracked his movements. He had barely risen from his meditation, and already he was being surveyed like a moth in a cage. His mother always deemed him to be a powerful sorcerer, yet she always demeaned him, put him in cages, guarded him like a prized sow. She didn't seem to mind when his sisters abused him in such horrendous ways. Agatha would whip him until she got bored. Dominica would drug him and test her alchemical poisons on him, letting him choke on his own blood before healing him. But Faith was the worst of them all. There was no end to her malign cruelties, and she would always bargain him off to the other noble women to have their way with him. He hated this place, this prison, and his mother had kept him, and yet Brassen remained. This was his home, his family. He couldn't do anything because he had not known anything else but this. He pressed his palm against a stone bird statue he crafted with his magic. It teleported him into his own office in the School of Magic. Technically, it didn't belong to him, but this place was so old and forgotten, surely no one would mind if he set up his own workshop in the decrepit part of the college. In truth, he did cleanse it of all malicious spirits, so he deserved some credit. He's working on enchanting some items, a pendant that would silence all noise from the wearer, a pair of gloves that would increase the potency of elemental spells. He'd been stealing a few items from his mother's palace, but he would only do certain amounts so his sisters or other high-ranking members would not be so suspicious. If any of the palace servants would get in trouble for his action, he would fully take the blame. He has been treated like a prisoner, but his servants were treated worse than slaves. It broke his heart. He had been told the majority of his life that this was how the world should work. That the entire of the strong stomp and oppress the weak, make sure that they obey without any glimmers of hope or individuality. It was necessary. He recalled Fate saying this to a previous time when he dared question the drive and morals of his people. Those above us hate us, for we are pure incarnate. We do not hold back for sake of mercy or waste our breath on forgiveness. We know the might is the only solution to rid the world of its problems, and therefore they seek to obliterate us completely. They fear us. The memory is cut short with a crack of a thorn whip snapping at Brassen's hand. He cut to the present, as he genuinely needed the skin on his wrist. Brassen felt as if that outlook was flawed, for he had seen plenty of problems from this point of view. But what were the other kingdoms above the ceiling like? Were they even more brutal, violent, and depraved? Or were they cities of actual equality, places where mercy and forgiveness were abundant? Perhaps they were just small dreams of a deluded man, but they were something he clung to. He let out a sigh as he teleported back out of his lair into the room where he unexpectedly found his brother waiting for him. Brassen greeted him with a smile. His brother was a reprieve from the more cross members of his family's house. Vretrek was in his combat gear, apparently impatiently tapping his foot against the marble floor. "You're taking your time in there. What are you up to?" Brassen just shrugged and smirked. "Just trying to escape," he joked lightly. Vretrek narrowed his eyes with a smile. "Well, I might as well show you the way out then." He gave a playful elbow in Brassen's ribs as he signaled for the sorcerer to follow. They proceeded through the edge of the city and stopped at the beginning of a small, narrow cavern. Brassen glanced at Vretrek. His brother has never led him astray before. He'd even taken some punishment on Brassen's behalf. Still felt off. Brassen was barely able to be permitted to leave the city. Hardly his matron mother will allow him to journey into the darkness of the caves. Vretrek noticed a glint of suspicion in his brother's eyes, and he pressed his index finger on his lips. "We were on private training with a mercenary tutor." "Ah, that explains it." Vretrek has it sorted with an excuse. Or so Brassen believes. The journey through the cavern system is intense and draining, and yet Brassen seemed to be beaming with excitement. His brother told him to lead, and if it was needed, he would course correct. The sorcerer was more than happy to oblige, gleefully taking the front as he recklessly jogged ahead. It was funny. He felt more free in this small tunnel than he did in the more expansive city. He was so enamored by this freedom, this moment of spreading out his wings, and hardly noticed the darkness spreading across Patrick's face. Patrick glared at Brassen with somber feelings and resentment. He, he has done so much for his brother, and yet he has not been shaped into the weapon his mother needs him to be. He cursed the moments of kindness. They were not befitting of a dark elf. Look what happened because of his weakness. His brother is a bumbling bee when he should be a venomous arachnid. Soon Brassy will know what it means to be an elf born into the deep recesses of the world, or he will be forever be a tormented soul. Brassen stopped at the fork in the tunnel system and spun on his heels. He caught a glimpse of his brother's facial expressions before it returned into something more familiar. He wanted to question it, but he decided it was best not to look. Which way? Brassen chirped, eager with excitement that almost infected Vatrick. Home, remarked the brother, almost too bluntly. The suspicious glint returned into Brassen's eyes. They didn't even get to see the guns of outside, and his brothers already wished for them to return? But we're so close. We can spend another few minutes. I can feel the breeze from the tunnel on the left. I just wanted to be sure, Brassen pleaded desperately. He wanted to see the overworld, what it looked like from above. Was it like his dreams? Patrick puffed out a breath as he was tired with his first facade. You will never see the overworld. Mother has forbidden it. We are to return home for your re-education. He couldn't look Brassen in the eye. Even after all the inner turmoil about weakness, he was still too weak to see the light in Brassen's eye diminish and an utter disgust of betrayal on his face. You're like the rest of them, he spat. Lightning trickled from his fingers as he looked beyond angry. Was this all a ruse? Gain the trust of little Brassen, then watch him struggle as he dangled freedom in front of him. You are far the cruelest of them. Frederick had enough, and began his own shouts. I'm tired of protecting you like an injured pup. All you do is snivel and whimper. You accuse me of cruelty? You are the worst of us, and yet I try desperately to protect you, and all I get in return is beatings and punishment. You do nothing for me, but be an utter irritation. He grasped Brassen by the arm, putting it behind his back and shoved him against a cold stone. Brassen wanted desperately to fight back against his brother, but what then? Escape? Run away? There was nowhere there was nowhere to run, and he'd be hunted down forever. So he didn't relent, surrendering for his brother's grasp as he was transported back to his suffocating room. There, he was greeted with the malevolent smiles of his mother and of his three sisters. His eyes widened as they were all surrounding his bird statue, and a brief smell of smoke and embers filled his nostrils. Faith was wearing the necklace he was enchanting, and it seemed she didn't know about its magical component. He wanted to cry, to shout, and curse out his family, but all he could do was fall to his knees. He understood what they had done. All his work was up in flames, and for the icing on the cake, his mother placed her hand on the bird statue and smushed it with the same magical spell he used to create it. She pushed it down and smashed it in front of him. He tried to beg her not to reshape it, but all he could do was look at her with dried eyes filled with despair. You have been given more time than any of us here, and yet you have still thrashed on the hooks of our society. Oh, how I wish to wipe your very stain of existence from my tower and start anew. But that would not be as much fun as showing your soul true torment. You will be one of us, a champion of magic against our enemies, or you will continue to struggle and be bait for whatever dark creatures lurk in the recesses of these wretched depths. She held his face by the chin and scowled darkly. She liked how he flinched. That was good. He still feared her. He won't do anything foolish for now. The gods have blessed me with another child, little Brassen. We will christen you in his blood, and you shall be reborn. Disgust spread across the youngest faces at this revelation. Out of all the cruelty, hatred his people had shown for others and themselves, they were never as wretched as to harm an infant in such a manner. And yet, maybe he was wrong. Maybe this his kind were all like this. Maybe this was a common ritual. The monologue his sisters and mothers went on fell silent as new ideas were routed in his brain. They may have dangled freedom and his dreams in front of him today, only for them to use it as a way to crush him. But a new dream rose from the embers of his previous desires. A new life, a better life, one only for him, but for that infant. Not only for him, but for that infant in his mother's womb. He will get a life far better than Brassen did, no matter the cost of Brassen's body or mind. He will save his brother. When he was left alone, he rose to from his knees and began to plan. Freedom was forever in his grasp. So that's just chapter one there, and I hope you enjoyed it, and my friends enjoyed it. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you like it, just like it. If you don't, if subscribe if you want more. Bye bye.